Thank you, Bishop. Thank you very much as well for your presentation. And hello, everybody. Hope you're having a good day today. Um, Today, we're going to be working on the approval workflow from Navision Business Central. And well, we're going to have a session where we're going to be presenting all the steps. So we're going to go through some exercises where I'll be explaining basically what is the main features, what are the main features in Navision to make your approval workflow for different documents. And well, as well, we're going to have, if you want to participate and have further questions, if you have them for your own company or asking what could NAB do, please just raise your hand and make a question in the chat so I can just immediately review that. So, well, let's go directly to the topic. So as an introduction, we have for any workflow many activities that can be reviewed by the idea of having a workflow is that through the system, we can handle some activities to be reviewed by some approvers. So there are plenty of different steps which will be considered as our workflow events, right? And with some conditions and responses, companies require specifically some documents sometimes to be approved or some changes in the system before they can be actually released or sent to the customers or vendors, etc. So that's the idea of having the workflows implemented before doing any release of any different steps. Supervision and verification of specific information might be required in advance. So that's exactly what we're going to check, and what type of documents, what type of steps, and where to check this in NAB so you can actually work with that. So let's just begin then, and hopefully this is a good session for you so you can get rid of any issue or doubt about this specific topic. So let's begin with the approval workflow then. Today I have a presentation first, and then I'm going to jump into NAB so we can check this information in the ERP directly. So what is a workflow? So workflows are a list of steps. Each step consists of workflow events, workflow conditions, and workflow responses. Companies require documents to be approved before they can be released or sent to the customers, vendors. If a purchase order has total amount above 1,000, 10,000, an approval may be required from the hierarchy before sending it across the vendor. Here we use approval workflow as an example. So what are the type of events and responses that we are talking about? Sometimes when a customer is created, send an email message to the salesperson responsible for that region to alert them of the new customer. This also could include some changes, important changes as a credit memo for AR, as the credit limits for as well for AR and so on. So more complex workflows are built from chains of event and responses. For example, a purchase invoice exceeds 2,215, but the purchase invoice on hold until is approved by a manager. So this means that a user basically can, as an example, which is the easiest one or the most common use, you might require to have some provision on your budgets, and before creating and send a purchase, maybe somebody could or should review first this type of documents, as well as the information should be fine with maybe the original documentation that will be sent to the vendor with specific quotations sometimes as well, right? So basically these workflows would work perfectly in that example, but it's not the same, the only document. There are also plenty of documentation that we can approve and some other changes. So I'm going to explain you which specific documents can be approved. And I can give you this presentation so you can have further information to review later. So what do we do here? Create a workflow event, define an event, and expose that object as a workflow event. This is done in the CAL object. Designers typically performed by developers, right? So if you want to build your own, basically you would need a programmer sometimes. but we are just, in this presentation, what we're going to do is just represent what NAB can do without it. We are just saying as a comment that for some specific, we could require sometimes a developer and that type of specific things. So NAB get rid of that. So we have we can use workflow templates, okay? We include more than 27 out of the box type of workflows. These are delivered as workflow templates for you to apply in your business. For example, in the case of a purchase invoice as well, the purchase invoice process typically involves registering the purchase, posting the document to create ledger entries, and generating a payment instruction. So if you want to do so through the workflow, somebody needs to check it, approve it, see if the information is correct, or then otherwise the person also could reject the document and the purchase would need to be corrected before actually doing all the regular procedure until you create the ledger entries and then generate the transaction and the cash flow. So well, in advance, that's the purpose of the workflow template. Is somebody that is a process that is already designed, predefined, so you just should enable the process and add the users that you want to approve. What type of documents first we have when we talk about the templates? First, well, I have just grouped some of the processes in some specific procedures, or for us to understand better. Let me explain you this. We have documents for administrations, finance, purchase and payable, sales and marketing, and sale documents. These are the type of documents that can be that can be included within an approval workflow. So first, we have administration overdue approval request for workflows. So you will need to first of all check once a workflow is triggered that this should be approved. Otherwise, we should include, just for you to know, an administrator, a user to be the main user for the workflow. So any document that is overdue or that has an issue can be approved by this administrator. All right. So we should include one of these. Then we have the finance type of approval workflows. For finance, we have a general journals, and we before posting, we might require maybe a certain type of general journals to be approved that could be even by line as well. That's another feature where we should review line by line each document before it can be posted, or it could be the entire document with a total amount. So we can just release a document, send it to an approver directly or a group of approvers. Then we have integration, which could be incoming documents that, for instance, this means that we have OCR documents that we could just integrate this process so your invoices can be read, can be checked, scanned, and included. Once they are scanned, this OCR technology just review the information, but somebody else has to check if the information is actually correct with the original document, with the information that was scanned and imported into NAB as a document. So maybe your invoices can be scanned, and this is a service that can be integrated with NAB and then reviewed by somebody before actually we post these OCR scanned documents. Then we have the most common ones used, purchase and payables, where we could include vendor creation or changes. So you can check the information before the vendor from where you are creating. Maybe your purchases or invoices can be checked, and in order to have a quality control on this type of information. Purchase documents, which include blanket purchase order, credit memos, invoices, and so on. So basically all the purchase documents can be checked, even a quotation. You can check the quotation for any vendor and then create an actual purchase order, and this purchase order can be included as well in another approval workflow to check if the information is correct, if it matches, or if you are checking your budget so you don't go over any expense that you don't want to do, and so on. So purchasing payables can be as well checked. And then we go with the sales and marketing process where your credit limit for any customer can be reviewed. So AR could be sometimes in charge of having the credit limits. They could checking the aging of the specific invoices for any specific customer. And well, they should be checking whether they could increase or decrease the credit limit in advance so they can have a correct management of the aging of specific document invoices created for your customers. So as well, for different customers, when you create them, when you edit your customers, you can have an approval workflow of the information. As an example, you might include a new address, delivery address for the customer. You would like to review if that's correct according to any specific invoice maybe or document that you attach. So we can attach documents to validate that any information is correct or incorrect. And as well, we have for items, if you want to check the item creation, as an example, in this case, the unit price, it could have an approval workflow before you update that and before selling any item, checking that the information is correct. At last but not least, we have just the sales document that could include the blanket sales order, sales credit memos, invoices, and orders. Sales returns as well. Could be we could have an approval workflow to check, for instance, if we have an issue with the quality control of the products that we sell, and somebody creates a sales return. Well, somebody could review what's happening with those returns, sales returns, to check what type of items we are receiving from our customers, check what's happening in the warehouse, or checking whether the information for those returns are correct. We would be creating a credit memo, so we could avoid issues and have a discussion better with the customers to understand what's happening before actually creating the credit memo coming from our return, as an example, right? So, well, these are the type of general documents that we could include. They are already, the workflow is already prepared to be released, to be created in NAB. This is what we're going to be doing today. And then later, not only the documents, but we are going to be checking the users. What is the topic with the functionality when we work with the workflows? First of all, we're going to specify specific users that will be in charge of and will be responsible for creating, for approving, delegating as well, or rejecting documents. So we create specific users and specify their limits. Limits that will be amounts specifically in our local currency that will be checking. As an example, if we have a hierarchy of approvers, then we could have some specific limits. And if we have a purchase document, one user could approve above some specific limit any purchase, but maybe we have the manager who could review more expensive items to be purchased. And if we are having maybe a larger expense, we could have a director or even the administrator that we have just specified before, that we could have an administrator of the approval workflows. So that way we could create hierarchies. User limits can be different for sales and purchasing. They don't have to be the same. So they are completely different, independent, and we create a specific, in every document, we could have different thresholds for our approvals. Then we have an approval process where we could have sending, approving, and rejecting procedures, right? And we could send in an email a notification for the specific person that should be approving. And as well, in NAB, we could create indicators for you to check how many documents you have for the day to check and approve or reject, etc. So, right? So that is part of the process. Then, at last but not least, we could create approval groups where all approve in a sequence order. So we can say that a group of people can review one by one in a sequence order all our changes or documents, and they could approve them. And once all of them have approved, the document or the change in the system can be then released. Otherwise, if one approver out of the group is not approving, then the document cannot be released, all right? Then all approve in order, sequence order, and only one approve required. So when we talk about groups as well, only one person can be in charge of the review as well, right? Just to mention as well, we could have an approval workflow where only we could have a sequence order, or all of them should approve our document, right? So basically that's it. When we talk about and when we include an entire group of people that should be reviewing. So this could be maybe for important changes, or if you are checking and many people is responsible for a budget, as an example, where you need to have not only a hierarchy, but an entire group of people. Then we're gonna create a workflow from scratch. We're gonna be creating the users that will be approving, and so for you to have the complete insight of what we're going to be checking today. So what are we going to do? The main steps in creating a workflow are as follows. First of all, we set up the approval users. Then we create a purchase order workflow for today in our demo as an example. In our first exercise, we're going to be creating a purchase order, and we're going to then see how do we approve or reject the document. So we are going to complete all these 4 steps in this part of the demo, right? So as an example, today the accounts payable coordinator wants to see all purchase orders to verify the correct information is in place. So all of them, all right? The purchase creates a purchase order. The purchaser creates a purchase order. Then he needs urgently his orders to be approved. So he notifies the approver by verifying who needs to approve. What am I saying is that not only we can create the document, but we can also have comments and internal communication for the users in the chain to be able to fast forward this process and be able to have interaction. Maybe they would like to, the person who creates this oftenly happening. The person who creates a document, a purchase order in this case, attach the original documentation that will be requested internally. Maybe you want office supplies, maybe you would like to have specific expenses, and then you will need to attach an actual invoice or an original document, or you have urgencies. And in case we reject, we could have comments in the other side for the approver, where he could just communicate to the creator of a document what happened, why the document is being rejected, right? And so, well, in this case, those are some examples of the use of this type of operations. So I'm going to just open NAB. And today I'm going to be using two users, where I'm going to be today, first of all, a purchasing agent. And as well, today I'm going to be acting as an accounting manager. So I'm going to be having 2 windows. I'm going to be telling you which invoice I will be opening. So in first place, I'm going to be using the purchasing agent to make my exercise of creating the purchase, and the manager is going to be creating and approving the workflows. So the accounting manager will be responsible in this example just to review the expenses to be approved. So he wants to create, first of all, an approval workflow. And first of all, he needs to include the users who will be responsible for his documents, right? Today I'm an administrator of the ERP system. In addition, today I'm a super user, so I'm going to have access to everything, right? But in your system, we could have also an administrator in charge of assigning the correct permissions for the specific people that will be in charge. They will be only, they are not going to be able to create workflows. So we could have a responsible specifically for that. So in this case, I'm just going to jump directly into the workflow. I'm going to go to, let me change the language, excuse me, to English. All right, so okay, so today as well in this part of the screen, you can see who you are. In this case, I'm a manager. The user is a manager. The company is Kronos. And well, when I just go into the department section, I have an administration module where I'm going to be just working directly with the workflows. Here it is in the application setup. When I start to navigate into this module, I'm going to be able to find the specific features for the workflow, and I need to open, in this case, the approvers for the workflows. So let me go into administration, and I have the approval user setup in this section. I'm going to open the window and start generating the first setup for my a list of the users who will be approving. All right, let's take a look at the features that I have. When I open the approval user setup, first of all, you will be checking all the users that are in your company. So in this case, I'm just going to include the users that will be helping me today for me to show in this demo what are the specific roles in the approval workflow process. So when I include this Dell user as an example, this is just the regular user that you have, but also we have another type of users that could be the salesperson and the purchasers, right? So you sometimes assign the responsibles people of the specific operations either in purchasing, sales, and they can be included here. And somebody is going to be, if you take a look at the column approver ID, they could have a specific approver for this type of operations that could be the manager, right? Also, we have the sales amount limit, and in this case, if they have unlimited sales amounts to be considered, take a look at this type of operations where you can, just for you to have the idea, you can create an amount for the approval limit now for the purchases as well, or you can have an unlimited purchase amount, right? So those are the type of configurations we could have. And then we have a substitute a person that could help us when we maybe can go to vacation, and we could delegate our work for somebody else for a while, right? Then we should include the email, so we can just send an email whenever a document is created, and maybe we'll be sending an email notification for this specific person to receive and check what work they have. And when they receive an email, they can open an AV to start approving. So in this case, I having this first user, and I need all the time, like I said, an approval administrator. This person that I'm including today, the Dell user, which is an administrator for me for the approval workflow, can approve any document that is created. So if somebody for any reason cannot approve, maybe a person has a meeting and somebody else can communicate with the administrator so he can approve for this person, and he will be having his super user of the approval workflow. After that type of user, which is a general user, I need to start including now my hierarchy of specific users. First of all, I will be including the manager, which will be the AP coordinator, which is going to have just an approval, unlimited purchase approval. So just in this example, I'm going to be creating an unlimited purchase approval, and well, he's gonna be in charge of all AP processes, and part of that it will be the purchasing department, right? We could have as well another type of persons that we could have in our hierarchy. Maybe we have another director who will be the only one who could have unlimited purchase approvals, and so on. So after the manager, we would need the purchasing team who will be working with us today, and I'm going to be creating a purchase order. I'm going to include another user who will be the purchaser responsible for creating the documents for us today. As well, as part of the team, we could have we could include another user. We could include the entire purchasing team. So we are going to be having many people working who will be creating the documentation, and only one approver. This is a very basic type of work hierarchy, but like I said, we could include more and more so they could work together. But we would need to then, of course, having an amount for approval limit. I'm going to do that in a second exercise for you to see how it works. But before going there, in advance, I'm just going to go and create the very basic type of approval workflow where only one person responsible will be checking the documentation for an entire team, right? So, well, once we have this type this is the most basic type of approval setup, where once again, just to recap, I have an administrator, I have a manager, and I have a team of users who will be creating documents for us. Let's not forget about the substitute user. Whenever a manager is not able to approve any type of document, I would like to include a user who will be helping me just in case I'm go on holidays or that type of things, and I'm going to be a substitute, including a substitute, right? Well, once you create this, you will try to think, okay, is this correct or is this not correct? NAB can help you. Specifically, we have an approval user setup test where NAB is going to tell you, in this case, what we are having for this test, and I want to test if my configuration was correct. Well, I'm going to be checking for the purchaser. I'm going to be creating purchase order today. So we have different type of tests. I'm going to be having a test for the approval setup, and I'm going to just preview if my setup was correct for today. So I need to include approver ID must have a value in the user setup. Okay, this is an internal configuration. Let me check. The user setup. Apparently one of my user, it is here. Let me check. Okay, the error is here. Once we just create the specific hierarchy, we need to specify which of these users will be the direct approver of, in this case, the purchaser 1 and the purchaser 2. So I have an approver ID column for the purchaser 1, and this person will be responsible to approve the documents that the purchaser 1 create, which will be, in this case, the manager for purchaser 1 and purchaser number 2. Now, that is the use of this tester who is going to be helping you in advance, so you cannot be thinking that, oh, my specific process is correct now, and you start creating your documents, but for some reason you don't understand why the documents are just on hold because nobody's approving. So that's why we have this tester. And apparently for now, once I have corrected my first issue for my approvers, everything is fine. So I have a manager in this case, and I have a purchaser. In the first line, the purchaser, the first line is created for the purchaser, and in this case is telling me I have a purchaser, the approver will be the manager. The purchaser amount is 0, so all the purchasers that this user creates will be reviewed, and this doesn't have an unlimited purchase approval. The status is okay, not anything else. And in sequence, if I create a purchasing document, I have another second step where I have a manager that will be reviewing the documents. They in this case have an unlimited purchase approval, and everything is okay with the user. So after everything was tested, this means that I can start working. Then what I need to do is create my first approval workflow. Hopefully this can be easily understood with this example, and I'm gonna go and create my first approval workflow. Once I have this user setup created, I'm going to check my workflow templates. Let me check. And I'm going to go and review the templates that NAB has. Let me take a look. Where are them? Okay. If you take a look in the navigation menu, I have the workflow templates. Let's take a look at them. These are the ones that I have in the presentation. Let me open all of them just for you to take an insight of what type of documents we have. We could, first of all, for the administrator, we could enable the overdue approval request workflow. If we have an administrator and we oftenly might have some users that for any reason forget to approve anything. So if we have an administrator, we might or we would need to create an overdue review for specific approvals that after some days we could generate an overdue date for specific documents. Maybe after 1 or 2 days we would like to have a review of which documents were not approved, right? Then for finance, as I have already explained, we have general journals that we can approve by line or by batch. So we could have a person in the finance department, maybe a controller or maybe a manager or a supervisor who would like to check any general ledger a document or general journal that could be affecting some specific expenses as an example. So we could specify which documents we would like to have to be checking before they can be posted. And so on. I have gone through that before, so I'm just saying that what I'm going to do now with these templates, the templates are already created model that in the system is going to give me the specific steps where I can configure everything. So I'm going to check the purchase approval workflow for purchase orders. So it's already here, and I'm going to create as easy as this new workflow from template. So that these templates have all the steps. I have configured my users, so I don't have to do any fancy stuff, or I don't need a programmer. This was already created for the administrator user most commonly. I'm going to be then clicking on that template where I'm going to be explaining now what is a workflow when I just see this for the first time, all right? This is a purchase order approval workflow. And apart from that, I have a category that this is coming from the purchasing documents. And I have here a setup to enable my workflow when it's ready. So this is the header. The idea is to know which type of workflow I have and if this workflow is enabled or is not. So as well, I can import some other, but these are more advanced features. I can import some information, but not for the initial demo. I'm just going to start working from scratch. And what I have here are in the line section, some other steps that I call the events. So the first steps is the approval of a purchase document is requested, right? Then an approval requested is approved or rejected. And what could happen after this? An approval request is canceled or is delegated. So we could have different type of events that could happen, and then I could have a specific condition and a response, right? So what happened in my first step, I'm saying that an approval of a purchase document is requested. Well, the condition for me in this example is that the order is created and the status for this order is open. For those of you who haven't had a training for the approval process, we have different status of the documents. When it's open, this means that my purchase order would be still on I still will be editing my purchase. This means that including lines, including items or expenses, attaching documents, having specific descriptions, and review the information from the vendor card as well. So the warehouse is not yet able to work with this document, and this document as well has not been yet sent to the vendor. After that, then I have a response. Let's work with the responses specifically to show what is this about. What type of specific responses I could have. First of all, when I have an open document created, I could add a restriction. This restriction could be for me, let me show you some documents. I could add restriction, approve the approval immediately, create a notification, create a purchase document for an incoming document. This is for OCR. If somebody creates a purchase order, okay, let's create a scanned document to see the original information and so on, okay? So do nothing as well could be another example. And well, there are some different type of responses. In this case, what I'm going to do is just set the approvers, okay? So if somebody creates a purchase document, create an approval request for the record using the approver. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do at this point. This is a response that I want, okay? I could include a confirmation message, okay? Just showing the basic setups. I could include a due date formula. Let's say that after 2 days, at most, sometimes. It depends on your internal policies. If it's for a sales operation, it should be done just immediately, all right? Maybe 1 day at most for a sales document to be reviewed and approved. All right, so delegate after this specific due date will be necessary sometimes. 1 day, 2 days, or five days as an example is included in the default list. So in this case, you can check your options, but a delegation will be important to have a due date for some instances, right? Then the approver type, in this basic setups, I could include even a salesperson or a purchaser, or I could use the specific, in this case, approver. If I select this one, this document would check directly into the hierarchy chain that I have just created before. So we could have different type of approvers. And at the end, I'm going to be explaining what will be the user of the workflow user group. So hopefully this is quite easy to understand for the first time. And the approval limit type, in this case, I could have, in this case, the approver chain. That is the approver, a list of approvers that I created, or I could have a direct approver, or the first qualified approver. In this case, when I specify specific conditions, that will be quite more advanced type of a setup, all right? So specific approver as well, you could include only one person. That could be one user that you only want for this type of purchases. Okay, so we could say, when I talk about conditions as well, that maybe I could delegate certain type of expenses, or if a specific vendor, I'm creating a purchase for a specific vendor, this is a condition and this should go for an approver. Or if I have another vendor, let's go and try another user, and so on. So we can have conditions, all right? So in this case, I'm having the regular approver chain. Like I said, this will be coming and going for the specific approvers setup that I did before. This is the basic setup, all right? So once I have just added this specific setup with the approvers, and I have added my due date formulation, in this case, I'm going just to approve immediately. but that means that it's already set up, and I'm just going to click on OK. And the only thing that I need to do is enable my workflow. Now, if you see this checkbox is selected, and I don't have to do anything else, right? So at this point, my approval workflow is ready. It's easy as that, right? So if you can, if you see maybe the specific conditions that I have set up are very general, very easy to understand, but actually the other examples I'm going to show are just easy as this. It's about understanding just the setups, and everything will be ready for you in the company. Once I have this, well, I'm just going to go back. This was part of the administration work, but at this point I will be coming back to be the accounting manager, and well, in this case, the accounting manager can see different type of documents. In this case, I have the overdue sales documents. I have document approval. As you can see, I have 6 POs already, all right, that I need to approve. In this case, only for the accounting manager, all right? But maybe for another users, we can create this specific type of features where somebody could review the vendor, somebody else could review the items, and so on, all right? So this is just an example for POs and a sales order for this type of a accounting manager role that is most commonly could be checking this type of operations, right? So well, after that, I just said that also I have another NAV a session open. This could be, in this case, for the purchasing agent. If you take a look at this in the bottom, I have the session who is opening this NAV window, and this is the purchaser number 1. Okay, once I have this, excuse me, I could generate a purchase order immediately, right? The idea of the purchaser most commonly will be just to creating the purchase order after he received an instruction of creating in order to have some supplies for the company, either for the warehouse, for our internal processes, or for the office as well. And he will immediately open the purchase order section, and he will go to new in order to create the first approval, a purchase order to approve, all right? Let me explain now for those of you who are seeing NAV for the first time. In the purchase order section, I have a header where I need to include the specific vendor. In this case, I'm including a Progressive Home Furnishing as an example. The contact is Mr. Michael Sean Ray. After that, I'm going to be having, I need to include what items or expenses I'm going to be purchasing today. Here I have in the line section the possibilities to purchase. I have GL accounts. I can have some specific expenses, and I can immediately just include a GL, an item from your item catalog, fixed asset, or charges. Whenever you want to include, I don't know, customs, whenever you want to include insurances or any type of expenses added, that to another purchase can be also as well done. After that, I'm going to take a look at my items. I'm going to include a random item from my item catalog, and I'm going to be including a warehouse. I have my warehouses in this company specified by color, so I'm going to be including the blue warehouse. After that, I need to include how many units I'm going to be purchasing, and I need to take a look specifically at the amount. In this case, I have not included in my hierarchy any amount approval limit. So this means that all the purchases that I do will be going to my approver. Now, if I take a look at my first document, I also would need to check here my amounts, because I know that I need to create my purchase order correctly, because somebody is going to be checking my information. But also, I have the possibility to attach the original documentation to my purchase order. As an example, I would include from my computer any file that I can attach for the approver to check my information from an original document. And here as well, I have an approvals section in this side in my fact box. You can see here I have vendor statistics, right? I can see the balance for that vendor, the outstanding orders yet that I still have open for this vendor, and the total currency. As well, the overdue amounts and so on. So this information could be in fact important whenever I'm trying to take a look at the purchasing information to approve or reject and so on. So once I have done this, what I only need to do before sending the information to the vendor, I would like to be sure that the information is correct. Okay, in order to do so, after I have created this, I would need to send this document to be approved and send an approval request, which I'm going to do now. And take a look. Once I have clicked on this function, send approval request, then an approval request has been sent already, and I'm just going to click on OK. After I have done that, the purchaser can see the following. I have an approval section where the document 106050, which is still open, the status is still open. Then a manager, in this case, this user needs to approve. I have the information about when I have created this document, and here I have a comment section if I want to have further comments for the approver. So in this case, I just want to do that. So this immediately will be going to the, I'm going to now go to the approver. I'm going to just to close this specific. Oh, and by the way, if I want to receive, let me just make a validation, and I want to receive or invoice this document, then NAB is gonna give me a warning. You cannot use the purchase order for this action. In this case, I was trying to receive my purchase order because I have a restriction that was imposed for a workflow and so on. So well, I had just having a validation, and everything, this type of warnings exist all over the system and for different approval workflows that I have. And the same goes, I have explained before, like for example, the credit limit for the customers. If you want to change the credit limit, you are not allowed until somebody else approves. And this is the case if I want to receive, so I'm not going to be able to do this operation. In advance, as well, I will need first to check. I need to open the session for the accounting manager in this example. So what I need to check is now my PO pending approver. So I have included let's say a KPI to check that. So when you open an AB, now I am not the purchaser, I'm the accounting manager once again, and I have to check my information. I just immediately open an AB and I can see the work immediately that I have to do for the day. So for today, I have all these documents that I need to approve. I can see, first of all, in this window, the number of the document, the vendor that is here, buy from vendor, the vendor name, the status is still pending approval, and the currency code. So I need to check all this information, right? So this is the basic information that I need to check. I'm going to take a look at the document that I have created before. Sorry, I accidentally changed the session. All right, and I would need just to open the actual document. But in this case, first of all, let's take a look at these options. The approver has some other options for him. He can approve, reject, delegate, comment, or reopen a document. This could then, these actions can take place after I have reviewed the purchase order. Normally, I would need to check if the lines are correct, if the direct unit cost as well is okay, the quantity that I want to request. I can have some validation with the original user that asked the purchaser, hey, I needed some office supplies. You can call the original user who requested this, or you can even check the specific attachments when you have them, just to try to understand if a purchase order is actually correct, and so on. So there could be many internal validations that I could have. Okay, after this, let's say that all these validations were correct, the amounts, the items that I want to request are as well fine. So after I have done that, I will need to make maybe a comment, all right? Specifically, when I want to reject, I could say, okay, the information is not complete, so you could add a specific comment here, or you can just say, okay, the document is fine, the document is fine, please now receive the items urgently, as an example, right? So also you can include if you want to send to specific users as well. I have for the manager, I have for the administrator, I could include more messages, or for a user of different groups of people who want to check when an approval was done, right? This can be done by the approvers to see the message that I have done, and they will be receiving an email with my comments and so on, right? So that's the case in this case with in this example, excuse me. So well, but as well you could even delegate this approval for somebody else if you want, right? For in this case, I'm just going to approve the document. Okay, so in this case, when I have just approved, the status of this has just changed. So what I would like to now check, after I have approved my document, I'm just going to close it. And at this point, and only at this point, the original purchaser can then start to work with the document, and he can then just maybe just received or could start invoicing when he receives the document. In this case, I would need also to include when after a while, I can see that in first place, my status of this order is approved, all right? And I will be receiving an email in my Outlook who approved as well, then date and time of the approval that was sent. And look at this, I have a comment. So whenever we use the workflows, everybody is notified. The original user who created the document immediately is notified about it, and he can just immediately open the document where he will be continue to work. And in this case, because we have a comment, he is going to be able to, if he clicks on yes, he's going to be able to check the comment that was included here. So this means that after the approval was done, I need to now immediately receive the items. I need to call the vendor maybe, and so on. So I continue to work like this. So these are some of the uses of the specific purchases that I could create, and I just will immediately just receive an invoice as an example. And in this case, just for you, I won't have any approval validations above the only approver that I included. So the order has been posted and moved to the posted purchase invoices window. Now this can also be paid, but do not forget, I could include more workflows for the payments, and I could include more, for instance, if the vendor I want to include more approvers and so on, which I'm going to do right now for you to see more complex documents to be approved. So in this case, I'm just opening the invoice and so on. I have just completed my work for today for this purchase order. So this is the way we normally will be working. And I'm going to just have another example just for you to understand some other features that might be important for you to take. So I'm going to go back to the accounting manager, right? Session. With this, what I will be doing just is just creating another workflow just to finish the session of today. But I would like to make a further adjustment to my approval workflow, all right? And I need to explain what I will be doing today. So first of all, I'm going to check some other approving features like the amounts and some other. I'm going to navigate to the workflow again and take a look at the approval users setup. Okay, once I have this, the idea for me to start working is that I need to create another type of feature. Maybe I would like to work now with amounts, right? So I would like to include also another level of approving. So in this case, my manager won't be the only approver. Let's say that I will be including also my administrator, that sometimes for specific documents is I need to include somebody who will be reviewing specific amounts and see how this changes then. Then I'm going to include my administrator as the only one who now will be having unlimited access to all the approvers, all the approvals, and my manager in this new example will be having only an amount that he can approve. So this means that I'm changing just my approval setup to include another user and to having an approval amount for the purchasers, which is most commonly used, all right? So I have a team of purchasers, purchaser 1 and purchaser 2, and then I have a manager who will be having just an amount. So any purchase document under 1,000, in this example, he is going to be in charge of approving, and I won't have any other issue. But if somehow I'm going to be creating another level, this means that I will be having sometimes, I don't know, specific purchases. Let's say that it's not that common, but sometimes I will be purchasing a fixed asset, all right? Let's say that I will be having a car, all right? This means that also if you have your asset, your fixed asset module implemented, well, this will be having a further sub-ledger registers, so you will need to pay attention on the amounts, this number series, if the fixed asset is correct, and so on. So in this case, I would like to, and most of all, the amount will be much more expensive than the amount that I have just included here. So this means that in this case, not the manager is not responsible for the approval, but in this case will be another superior level of approvers. With this, I'm just going to test my approval setup just to verify that everything is fine. So in this case, I have a manager is set up as a purchaser. Let me take a look at this error now. And let's see if this works fine. Okay, the user is manager set up as an approver in the purchase approval route, or is his own approver. Okay, let's take a look at the error. Okay, what is happening here is that I will need to include who will be the approver for the manager. Let's take a look. Okay, now I have more levels for my approval process. First of all, the purchaser, there are no issues, but he doesn't have any limit. The second one is the manager, who will be taking a limit of 1,000, and the other one who is the Dell user or the administrator in this example have an unlimited purchase approval, so he can approve any type of purchase. Let's take a look at what happened here. So once I have created this other level with a specific amount, I'm just going to go back to the purchaser window and create immediately another purchase order for you to see what happened. I'm going to just include a new purchase order with the same vendor. It's just a random exercise that I want to show what happened when you have an amount to be included for a specific limit for a specific user. I'm going to be buying a shelf in this example to be in the blue warehouse as well. But in this case, I'm going to be, first of all, purchasing only one piece. So if I just create the approval workflow, the amount is not enough to go to the administrator or the last level. in this case is going directly to the manager. All right, why? Because of the amount is under 1,000. But let me reopen the document, which you also can do. If you as a purchaser realize that you have made a mistake, you cancel the approval request, which is the last option I just wanted to show. And you can immediately reopen the document. Let me show the status again. It's once again open. But in this case, I don't have the approval request is canceled. So you can see how the send approval request option is still open. But let me just change the quantity to be 1,000 as another example. And now the amount is 18,000. And I'm going to just send again the approval request. And what happened here in the approval section where I can see who is going to be approving my document. So I don't have the manager anymore. I directly, because of the amount is above of the amount that I have included in the workflow, now this is going to the superior level above 1,000 where my administrator will be approving. This could be as well a director, or this could be as well a second or third or fourth level of approvers. So I don't see commonly many approvers, or maybe 2 or 3 are more than enough to be able to review the documentation. Remember that the use of the workflow most commonly is to be able to assure and to be sure that the information in my purchase order is correct. The use is as well to review the budgets, where the responsible of the budgets or the AP manager could be as well approving, and maybe at most the director when I have a big amount for any purchase. Well, these are not so common, but maybe the director is responsible to check these expensive purchases. All right, so that's more or less how you can take a hint of the amounts where we can have more levels, where we are having an administrator with unlimited purchase approvals and so on. Okay, let's at last but not least having the last example, the last exercise. It also is very common that in every company you cannot just go and create your vendors, right? You want to have maybe the purchasing manager to review the items that are created, the vendors that are created, and I'm just going to make in this last exercise a very simple workflow where all this information needs to be reviewed in advance before you can use an item or use a vendor for a purchase as an example. So let's go to the templates again. It's not taking me to the actual option. Let me go to the workflow section to take a look at the workflow templates. Okay, as well, another example, I have the vendor approval workflow. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to show you some options with a very simple example. The point is not to show only the documents and the features, but what can be done with the approvers, all right? Then I have the approval workflow here for a vendor. This is a template. Like I said, it's already created. And then I'm going to include this and create a new workflow from scratch again, but for the vendors, and I'm going to add a restriction. So the first step is the approval of a vendor is requested, okay? You can filter some details and add restrictions, and this is what I'm going to be doing again. But in this case, you can send the approval workflow. Let me show you another instances of these examples. Okay, I need to include the approvers, but in this case, I don't want to include just the approval setup that I did. You could include a specific salesperson or a workflow user group, which I'm going to be doing now. Okay, what happened with this group of users, all right, whenever are required? This is not the specific list that I created before. A group of users means that sometimes I need a whole team to check something, in this case the vendor, All right, why I'm doing this with the vendor, okay? Normally, when a team is reviewing, is regarding maybe information, a team of persons when you create items, a team of persons where you have a validation to be done in sequence by many people. But it's not exactly like we did before, because the purchaser is more related to the amounts, to the budgets, and some specific operations. But in this case, it's just informational, maybe a specific field. Maybe the vendor, the address, is being, the actual information is reviewed by the person who is creating the vendors, but also you need at last the manager who will be checking that is this vendor not created by one user to do fraud, as an example, but it's an audited vendor that will be also part of our catalog, and so on. So these are some instances where not the operation, but the information is actually validated. All right, what I'm doing here is that, okay, I'm including the first vendor, the first user who's Dell, the second will be manager, and another one will be the purchaser number 1, the purchaser number 2. So I have 4 people who will be validating the vendors, okay? So as you can see, I have a sequence number. So if you can start sending this in advance before the sequence is being used to send emails for the approvers as well. In this sequence, the first user will be receiving the second, the third, and the fourth until the change is completed. Then also you could get rid of the sequence. Well, I have just validated this. Okay. But also, you would like to have to include that all of the users should be approving regardless of any type of sequence. So all of them will be receiving, for instance, the same a vendor that is created. All a specific team of users will be checking that the information is correct. So they all validate and they give validation. So they are responsible not only for reviewing, but the entire vendor catalog, right? As an example. So that's the use of the groups. Another idea could be, for instance, when you want to create an item, somebody else will be reviewing the sales price, somebody else will be checking the item information is correct to handle the warehousing barcode. So they need, and they will be checking that the barcode in the different unit of measures. For instance, you have an each that has a barcode, you have a pallet, you might have a box, and all of them have different barcodes. So you need to check that the information is fine, and all of these users will be checking the items. So in this case, is the vendor and 4 users that I have included, and this vendor, or if I set up an item workflow, won't be ready to be used unless all my approvers actually check that and approve. So the vendor then will be ready for me to create the purchase orders. So in this case, what I'm just going to do is I just reject the vendor and just show the example to finalize the session for today. The next thing after my explanation, okay, I have a workflow group of approvers to check my vendors. You need to enable this workflow, and immediately the purchaser one is going to be able to create any vendor, and is going to be immediately sent to all these 4 users. In this case, I only have 2 sessions. I won't be able to show how all of them approve, but actually that's not the idea for me. In this exercise, I have a template of vendors for my vendors where all the different fields will be completed in advance. So what I just need to do is just include the name of the vendor. This is the test vendor, and I have these fields that were completed for the domestic template. So these are my domestic vendors, and you can generate templates so all different fields can be completed automatically. This is a feature in this version now and in Business Central that you can use. And let's say that you include the different information, street one, and you can include the postcodes and so on. This is in BIM. Well, in BIM is in Austria, and well, you can include the contacts and so on, right? But for any reason, I'm making a mistake, in this case on purpose, and with this information is not complete. Maybe an internal policy is to include the contact, but it's not yet done. Maybe I would also like to include more information for the vendor, like the payment terms. In this case, it's in the current month. And I would need to have an internal form, maybe with all these features that should be included. And I attach the document to this card to show the real information that I should create, but I just forgot it. And I'm just going to send to approval request. Okay, so this is sent. I cannot use this vendor still, okay? But what I'm going to do is at this point, I'm just going to open the manager session just to finalize today's session. I have the request to approve window. Previously, I showed you a specific KPI that is going to gather only the purchase document, all right? But not only that. In this case, I have a request to approve window designed to show you all the different type of approvals that you have. Why am I showing this window? Well, I have different documents, in this case, purchase orders that I have, but let's take a look at this. They are already in red in the due date because do the formulation that I created for documents. Well, I need to start checking this, you know. So request to approve can send an email as well for somebody else, maybe my administrator, and the same user as well who needs to approve, because the due date is, in this case, I have bottleneck with this approver who is not checking the documents currently, or maybe they are also due because of the different process that I have internally. After back and forth my document, the document is not yet correct. So maybe I have an internal communications. Hey, I need this vendor in this example, but what is happening, and that's why I'm having this review for the due date. All right, this vendor in this example still doesn't have a due date, but most commonly when I have a workflows, I would like to see the actual information just to finalize. I'm seeing today I'm the supervisor or the approver as well. I'm the manager. Now I'm not the purchaser who created the vendor. I'm just validating. But if I take a look at this information and by validating the real information, I can see that this is incomplete. The address is not complete. The postcode is not correct. This is in Austria, right? By the way, my Kronos International company is in London. So this has an error. It doesn't have a picture. The payment terms might be incorrect. All right. So the payment terms code are not fine. So in this case, maybe it was net 14 days. The role of the approver is not to correct, but it can be. All right. It's up to you. So the approver as well can be the one responsible to make corrections, or most commonly, I just would then just reject this document because it was not correct, okay? So in this case, you can reject or delegate. Remember that I assigned somebody. Let's take a look at the delegation. So in this case, I have just delegated this to another user. So he, in this case, would need to come back and check the document for me because I don't have the enough information to approve or reject as well. That could be the case. So I'm just going to cancel this. So this is not correct, or was maybe delegated, and I'm going to send the approval request where I just would need to understand who is going to be responsible for my approval, and approve again and check all the different features that I have, okay? So the vendor card is here and needs to be reviewed. And in this case, very last option is just to reject the document. I know that the vendor is not correct, so I will just reject and make comments. The vendor information is not correct. Please complete the payment terms, and so on. So that's the whole idea. That's the use of this type of rejection operation. Also, maybe somebody else forgot, it's very common to attach original documents, original documentation, forms, printed forms to my original requests. So I'm just telling to one user that should include the payment terms to the manager, but I also please attach the company's form to the approval request. So in order for me to validate that the vendor information is correct, I will need a pre-printed form that could be used internally as well. And this should be going to the original user that is trying or is intended to create the vendor. So with that, I can just reject the document, and well, then the operation is finalized. I don't have any vendor to approve at this point, only my vendors. But if I continue doing these operations, rejecting and rejecting and rejecting, at some point I'm going to have a vendor approval request that will be due. All right. So it's important to have in consideration the dates. It's important to establish some internal policies. They're just as a suggestion for you to start working on the information type of workflows. So we have a operation for specific documents where you could also include this type of procedures, just giving you some ideas. But with this, we are finalizing today's session. Hopefully this is clear about how to create. It's very easy to create workflows for the specific documents that we have, but don't forget, we can custom your specific workflows for any type of field or table that you see in the system that you want to have a workflow. So please, if you have further doubts about the workflows to be customized or the templates that we currently have, please give us a call, give us your ideas of what you would like to see. In this case, I have also this information in exercises in a PowerPoint in this case, I have all the examples. Please tell me if you want to see the actual information that I have and I'm presenting today. The video is being recorded. You can see it in our Teamwork site. Please just tell me if you want to have access to this website, or if you want to have directly in your email this material, just please tell me. All right. We're going to have a series of other webinars, so please send me an email whenever you want something from me. Thank you very much for your time, and please tell me now if you have further doubts about any idea about workflows or any doubt that you have, so I can answer your questions. So in advance as well, thank you very much. I believe that the following session will be for just general journals, finance general journals, how to use them, and what will be general journals, automated journals that will be created for the rent that you most commonly create every month, validations, and why not to combine the workflow to be approved. So we could have a general journal. I could create a workflow that could be in advance configured for the approval of a controller. I don't know. There are plenty of ideas that we could have once we have understood this part. So I don't see any further doubts or comments. So we are finishing now our session. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good day for today, and see you next time. So my name is again Noé Wellman. Here's my email for you if you want to email me or have further ideas or doubts. So Goodbye and see you next time.